So I haven't been back to campus for a while now. There are impressive new buildings, and I'm still drawn to the old stone ones. My daughter Amelia had planned to come out with me this weekend. She's in 8th grade, plays for Vision. She's an outside hitter. She loves it. But she's leaving early tomorrow for a school backpacking trip, so she's at home. She and I will come out for another game sometime for sure. And these last few years, for me, volleyball has really circled back. I pepper with her after dinner, I wake up early on weekends, and drive to tournaments. To the San Jose Convention Center instead of the little old gym at Cal State Dominguez Hills. This afternoon, seeing the community Sabrina and Sam and you all are building, I feel that same circling back. The sense of belonging to this special place. We are lucky to have found our way to Princeton. Princeton volleyball is unique. And it's because of this community and these relationships. We may not see each other for decades, but when we do, time hasn't distanced us. Our friendships endure. And you will find we have a remarkable habit of running into each other. I came of Princeton volleyball age in the Mr. Coach era. My kids are in school with Katie Orr's daughter. Katie was our setter. Another of our teammates, Virginia Goss, lives 10 minutes away from me in Tiburon. Virginia's daughter is playing volleyball too. We lived in Sun Valley, Idaho for a few years, and surprisingly enough, there are 3 Princeton women's volleyball players living there right now. When we were in Sun Valley, Amelia went to camp with Dana Wheeler's daughter. Dana was our setter before Katie. Dana and I found a beach court, and a few other players, and we had a doubles game going for a while. So this community in this room stays with you, grows with you, shows up in ways I couldn't have imagined. When I moved back to LA after law school, Marin's teammate, John Phelps, set me up on a blind date with a friend of his from high school. This tall, handsome Yale football player named Michael Brown. So Michael would like me to tell you that he sacked our then quarterback, Jason Garrett, 3 times at a Princeton homecoming game. To get that in there. So there are rivalries in our household. In November, I pay attention to the Princeton bonfires. And now I appreciate the greatness of our mascot, the tiger. You run into a bulldog here and there, and they are comical, sweet, but comical. They will be snorting, drooling, often eating trash. I have a few pictures of them doing this, which a tiger, of course, would never do. When I arrived here at Princeton freshman year, I was like everyone else. I knew how to work hard. That first semester, I took calculus and honors chemistry. My parents, like legions of parents before them, believed that their studious child was destined to be a doctor. I had won a prestigious math and science award in high school. My friends knew I'd won because I reminded the physics teacher / head of the Brentwood School Science Department of his daughter, but the adults were impressed. So I started college very practical about my education, its specific purpose. That same semester, I took modern European writers to fulfill an English requirement. And then a funny thing happened in chemistry. I could not understand what the professor was saying. He did not have an accent. It was the language of chemistry. I could not understand the science. I failed the midterm. Once a week, we had chemistry lab. Lab was my strong suit because in lab, we had partners. My partner was named Joyce, and she was brilliant. I also found a patient, kind chem major who deciphered the other parts of chemistry for me. I spent days in Firestone studying. I was doing better, but my motivation was fear, and I had the sense that I wasn't cut out for this line of work. At the same time, I loved my European Lit course. We were reading Virginia Woolf. I thought Virginia Woolf was extraordinary. How she described her characters' inner thoughts and veiled the nuances of relationships. The truth was that I had always loved reading and writing. And if it weren't for parental preconceptions about physicians and the amorphous nature of reading and writing, what will you do with it? Teach? I don't know yet, I should have said, but I'll figure it out. I would not have been sitting in chemistry. So sadly, for the lab portion of the chemistry exam, we were not allowed to work with our partners. We were not allowed to speak. That early December afternoon, the lab was filled with rows and rows of lab tables where students in safety goggles silently bent over their Bunsen burners. The first day of lab, they go over the safety precautions, the goggles, the washing sink, the emergency shower. It was terrifying to think about the emergency shower. A panicked TA pushing you beneath the shower head and pulling the lever. I made it through the titration portion of the exam and began heating a large beaker over a Bunsen burner. When the liquid inside seemed well boiled, I decided to remove the beaker with a pair of tongs, crucible tongs. Crucible tongs are designed to pick up crucibles, which are very small. The beaker, in contrast, was large and heavy. There is an aptly named beaker tong, but I was unaware of it. So I clasped the beaker with the crucible tongs and lifted it from the burner. As I carefully pivoted, the beaker slipped. It smashed on the floor. The glass shattered, chemicals sprayed everywhere. Across the lab table, my open notebooks, the floor, Joyce's shoes. I stood there, peering into the vapor rising over the broken glass, my hands out like this. When I looked up, there were 100 freshmen staring at me through safety goggles. Joyce let out a yelp as some of the chemicals had splattered on her notes. Chemicals drenched the front of my white sweatshirt. From a far corner of the room, the TA came running. He had long hair, and it flew out behind him like a waving flag. He was sprinting for me. I thought, oh no, the shower. He's going to put me under the shower. There was some small mercy in that moment, as he did not. Other than not being pushed under the shower, I don't remember what happened after Joyce's cry and the TA's dash to save me. I like to think that I redid the experiment, but I blacked it out. Right after this, I went to Mr. Coach's office for a team meeting, a postseason wrap-up. I sat on the couch in his office in shock. I was still wearing the white sweatshirt, though the chemicals had dried and weren't obvious. In Coach's office, my teammates were all around, talking, joking, catching up. These were my people. They knew me. I was strangely silent. It was my first season, but we'd already driven hundreds of miles in the van together, played the name game enough times to know that Mr. Coach always won. We'd given each other advice and reassurance and loyalty. We'd beaten Penn together. We'd won the Ivies. Mr. Coach looked at me. It was one of his looks where he cocks his head, adjusts his visor, and fixes his blue eyes on you. I said, I exploded in my chem lab exam. And he said, Sather, which was my name then, you gotta get the hell out of science. And that's what I did. I'd like to say I went straight to the registrar and signed up for literature classes, and for the rest of my days here, found them all relatable and inspiring and earned straight A's because it was so meant to be. But that's not exactly what happened. I remained practical. I tried economics with Professor Blinder the next semester, but my dalliance with business was short-lived. I couldn't pass up the chance to read and think about stories. I pursued English. I wrote papers. I had a TA who told me that I couldn't write, but I wrote anyway. I had a professor who told me that I couldn't write well, so I wrote more. I learned that people's opinions, even professors, are subjective, and that you can always learn something from criticism. All of this happened while I played volleyball each season, while my teammates, Mr. Coach, and Dylan Jim gave me a home base, a family. I've continued inventing or reinventing myself since graduation. All of those iterations arose from observations, from desires kindled during my time at Princeton. In this vein, as a last thought, I would like to think about how our volleyball community develops here on campus and extends after we graduate. How the players today continue the legacy of my teams and the ones who competed before me. Each year, our teams reconfigure with new freshmen and the wisdom of new sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Graduates move into lives after Princeton with the foundation of that student-athlete experience. We are always growing, inventing, discovering ourselves. And that's the best kind of living. Thank you.